GFX, it's a medium format, right? So you can't really compare. From
Bearing in mind this is a comparison, so we can compare.
Well,
loosely.
Here's the thing.
Compassion, empathy, open heart. I know it's hard. Some march on the boulevard. Some build, some pull apart. Some blame, some do their part. Bring light when we're in the dark. Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Scarred face, burnt arms, it's alarming how we can't hold space for multiple truths, multiple hues. Talk about vacuums, sucked into the social chat rooms. Discuss and discuss, but ain't taking no action. Thinking that you know, but it's only a fraction. How you get the answers without asking? The math ain't math. Break down my walls, but I won't rise again.
So you might ask yourself, why compare these two cameras? Well, they are both premium compacts. One's full frame, the other one is large format. One's 100 megapixel, the other one is 61 megapixels. Which means here, spec for spec, the GFX should be the better camera. However, it is a little bit larger, as Dimitri was saying a minute ago. And both cameras have their pros and cons, and yes, the Sony should have more bits and pieces inside of it, but it doesn't. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Whilst doing this video with Dimitri, we were discussing more and more on the kind of like why things are missing like an IBIS. But IBIS uses additional battery. With the RX1R III, you don't necessarily have IBIS built into it. So it feels like there is a lot you're saving here when it comes to the RX series. But also, the GFX is actually one of my favourite cameras I actually reviewed. So it's going to be very interesting to see what we really both get out of today. And yes, we did just set that up. And yes, we did have to wait for an entire family, multiple generations, to go across the bridge. It was worth it though, because it was a pretty cool shot. Photos throughout the video shall be marked with an A or a B, and at the end I shall reveal which ones are which. From which camera, that is. Unless it's obvious, like one of us is in the frame, this should be the case. And I will try and trick you. And well, I've got a little bit of a guest for us. Meet Dimitri.
Hi everyone. How's it going, everyone?
Cool, and we're going to be checking out the RX1R III, which I'm predominantly shooting with today, and you're going to be shooting on the GFX100.
Yeah.
So what do you like about the GFX100?
The fact that I can have the power of my GFX100 II in my pocket, roughly, not exactly in my pocket. No, I can just travel with a camera that doesn't compromise in quality, really. That's the main thing.
RX1R III, RX1R. Names and cameras.
The nomenclature on cameras, this is crazy.
But overall, it's a camera that I am actually really... There's a lot of things it could have that they didn't put in, but also when you think about it, the camera is actually quite special. And I think it produces some of my favourite images, but that's because you've got that beautiful sensor.
Yeah.
But it's also got that nice compact form factor, which this one doesn't quite have.
Well, yeah, I mean, apart from the fact that I've got to put the lens hood on, and yeah, it gives me that extra reach, yes, in terms of like getting better contrast in the shot. The problem is it adds to the size. If I take it off though, great, it gets quite small. It's much smaller than the Sony. Problem is though, I lose the weather sealing. So it's like, okay, that's a bit of a weird one. But I think overall though, I like the size of both cameras. Yeah, I like the fact that I can have a GFX in my hand and carry it everywhere. And I love that little Sony camera, the RX1R2.
RX1R3.
R3, sorry.
It's the third generation.
It is surprisingly small. And it's packed with major pixels, which is surprising. It's really nice.
We did decide to challenge it today as well by
in the rain,
taking it out when it was literally just like some bad weather conditions, rain, like spitty kind of rain.
Rain and wind, eh?
Which we actually found out whilst doing the research that it doesn't actually have true weather sealing to it.
Well, it doesn't say anything.
It doesn't say anything. But the thing is, when you think about the actual camera itself, because it's not got any hinges for a screen on it, it's very, built-in system. So for light rain, I think it handled itself quite well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I know the previous model had the flippy screen, right?
Yeah.
And it's a shame they've taken it away, right? But I do think the fact that they've made it a single screen on the camera, it does make it more weatherproof. It definitely does. I mean, you can see by the number of exposed parts to the camera. So, okay, a good compromise. considering people are going to use this outdoors
Yes.
and shoot with it quite easily. It really is surprisingly easy to shoot with. I've never shot with Sony apart from the FX3 and FX30 as a video camera, and it was surprisingly easy to hold this little Sony camera, which I find nice. It's a nice addition.
Before we go into the nitty-gritty parts of this video, what I'm going to go over is the specifications for both of the cameras. I'm going to be saying all of the specs, and it's going to be in this order, and we're bringing in a third camera in here as well, and that is of course the Leica Q3. It's first the GFX100RF, second the RX1R III, and then third the Leica Q. Going to sensor now, we got a medium format sensor, a full frame, and then another full frame sensor there for the Q3. You've got megapixels on the cameras is 102 for the GFX, 61 for the RX1R III, and then 60 megapixels there for the Q3. The lenses on all the cameras is of course a 35mm f4 and a 28mm equivalent on the GFX. On the RX1R3 you've got the 35mm f2, and then on the Q3 you've got a 28mm f1.7, or you can choose the 43 f2. When it comes to the EVF, the GFX is of course OLED, and it's got 5.6 million dots at a 0.84 magnification. The RX1R3 has a 2.6 million dot at 0.7 magnification, and that is of course OLED as well. And then lastly you got the Q3 there with a 5.76 million dot at a 0.79 times magnification. The screens on the camera are of course tilty apart from the RX1R3, and then you've got the resolution here of the display to be in 2.1 million dots for the LCD on the GFX, and that is a 3.15 inch, making it the largest actual monitor out of all of the three cameras. Then the Sony coming in with perhaps the highest resolution display at 2.36 million dots, and that is a 3-inch type. And then the Q3 surprisingly with a 1.8 million dot display, and that is a 3-inch there as well. All of them are touchscreen. The GFX and the RX100 Mark III do not have IBIS, the Q3 does. You've got 4K 30 on both of the RX1R3 and the GFX. You can't shoot slow motion 120p HD on the GFX. You can with the RX1R3 and the Q3. The Q3 here comes out on top with 8K 10-bit 422, and you've also got the ability to shoot 4K 60 10-bit 422 as well as the slow motion in HD. When it comes to the photo bit depth, with the GFX you've got the highest here, and that is called 16-bit, and then you've got the RX1R3 with the Q3 at 14-bit. When it comes to the weight of the cameras, you've got 735 grams for the GFX100RF, and then you've got 498 grams for the RX1R3, and then you've got 658 grams there for the Q3. The GFX and the RX do not have any internal storage, but the Q3 does actually have an 8GB buffer. You do have weather sealing on the GFX, and you've got IP52 rating on the Q3. The RX1R3 does not, which is surprising. But when it comes to the price, and this is really kind of telling of what you're really seeing here, of course the GFX is coming in at £4,599, the RX is coming in at £4,199, and then the Leica Q3 coming in at £5,399, and then £5,900 for the Q3 43. So when it comes to inside of here, you don't have access to that ND, but you do actually have a beautiful 35mm f2 lens, which is kind of where I like to actually work in when it comes to photography. Of course, when it comes to Dimitri's camera, the GFX, you are having a 28mm or thereabouts when it comes to the actual shot, and it is f4. So although they kind of match up when it comes to how you think about large sensors and small sensors, I do think this 35 Zeiss is absolutely fantastic, and it's super sharp. And a lot of people will compare the Q3 to this. I was hoping to get a comparison with the Q3, however I couldn't actually quite get hold of the camera in time. But it's not that. The Q3 is of course bigger than this, and then also the GFX is bigger than this. So it's a nice little point and shoot for just everyday photography.
You know, the fact that it's got an f4 as a lens, and it's medium format, it's going to handle very large pixels, but I think Where this camera works well is the ND filter. I think Fuji did a good job on putting it in here because it gives you that extra edge that you need. Because the f-stop is f4, right? So you can't go lower. So the ND filter does help to stay at f4 on a brightish day like this, and then still get the shot you want, whether it's photo or video. And that, I think, was a nice feature to add, but then understandable why they're compromising the f4. That makes a lot more sense. If they had the ND filter gone out of the camera, it wouldn't be that easy to use. It really wouldn't be. Would be a real problem, especially acquisition. So I think that's a good thing from Fuji. I think they did a good job here. Whereas on the Sony, I don't think it's needed. I think Sony does a better job when it comes to the low light, and it also does a better job with acquisition and focusing. So in terms of that little Sony camera, I think it's fine. It doesn't need an ND filter.
And this is the two cameras, of course, side by side. Now there's not massives in it, no, but overall there's enough to be, hey, this camera's going to be perfect for the pocket. Now if you consider this against the Q3 now, the Q3 actually has a much larger lens and a much larger body, a very similar size to the GFX100RF. This is the most pocketable, full frame, compact camera on the market. And that is one of the things it's really special at.
To reiterate the point, this is the RX1R III going into my pocket, nice, smooth and simple. And then we tried it again with the GFX.
It's impossible to fit it in the pocket.
Now if you're talking about the flip down screen that the other two cameras have, this of course doesn't. But with this you've also got super reliable autofocus, and 9 times out of 10 what I'm doing is really checking the autofocus, or what I'm focusing on when it comes to the screen. So there is an argument to be made. The other side is you do actually have connectivity to apps for you to be able to control, in which you can very much stick this camera in so many different places to the rest of the lineup, still be able to see the shot and compose as you will. Again, it's a roundabout way of thinking about it, but the possibility is still there, and it's something to really consider when you're looking at premium compacts. But overall, both of these cameras are excellent. They both have their unique kind of flair, and ultimately it's just a really nice day to go out and take photos of so many different parts of the landscape. And thank you for Dimitri on helping me do this.
Yeah.
Let's do a little bit of an image comparison. First of all, you have A, and then you have B, maybe even Z. So, putting the photos next to each other, zooming in a little bit and checking the detail. What do you think? Which one do you think is which? Let's move on.
One thing I noticed, I mean, okay, with this camera, the GFX100RF, okay, the ND filter is very useful. I rely on it quite a bit, especially when I drop down to video, because, okay, the autofocus, I wouldn't compare it to the Sony.
Yeah.
I think that's where, if Sony, like this camera, doesn't have an ND filter, but you know 100% that autofocus is going to hit, it's going to hit spot on. So, okay, they didn't put an ND filter in that Sony, but it's okay, because the focus is there.
Yeah.
It's spot on. You know, there's no compromise here. It's not really compromise, it's actually removing what's not needed to truly put a 61 megapixel sensor in a tiny little camera like that, which you'll see later on in the video, or you may have seen already. There is no easy way to put this in a pocket, even though it's small.
Yeah.
There is no easy way. Whereas the other Sony camera,
Fits directly in my pocket.
it just goes straight in, which is great.
I'm surprisingly using it more and more for the video. So whether I would use the FX3 for a lot of the B-roll or even my mobile phone, I'm finding myself using the actual Sony more and more for the video in terms of just grabbing content.
Yeah.
But it's generally really good. We're going to be talking about it a little bit more, so make sure you keep on watching. And we're going to continue on to the next place. The other thing I would say is the 61 megapixel sensor of the A7R5 and the A7CR is excellent in here. If you want to compare the two cameras, of course, you know, the size difference, the ability to change lenses, they are great. But realistically, you kind of want to compare it against something that might have an advantage against it. And I think I'm getting told off.
No, it's just he's eating grass, mate.
So we've got this beautiful horse next to the castle, just eating along. And what we're going to do is get down nice and low, kind of get in the right frame. We've got the RX1R III ready to go, 61 megapixels.
5, 63, 80 mil. So it's got 4 modes.
So when it comes to these cameras, because they have such large megapixels, they do actually have the ability to do digital zoom. It has, of course, an actual 35, the 50, and then the 70, which is just 3 overall modes. Yeah. The GFX does come out on top here with...
Well, it's got the standard sort of 35, the 45, 63, and 73. So it goes an extra mode really high.
It does have that more megapixels.
Sorry, not 73, it does 73 and 80, sorry.
Yeah, so it does have that more megapixels.
One more layer.
Yeah, one more layer, which, you know, is added extra. And if you've seen the GFX review that we've done, you'll know that that is actually pretty damn useful.
Considering it's got 100 megapixels, it can afford to do that extra layer, which this one doesn't. It's only got 61, or 60, right? Yeah. So that's probably why they only gave it 3. The fact that this has got 100 means they can go 1 more. Yeah. And not sacrifice too much.
So, of course, both cameras do have your film simulation modes. Well, film simulations, it's creative styles on the Sony, and of course, the famed film simulations on the Fujifilm.
Yeah.
How often do you actually end up using them, though?
I use 2 of them. And to be honest, I also use them in RAW anyway. But if I'm going to use simulations, I will probably pick the Royale Ace, because I think it's pretty nice color reproduction. And I mean, Acros. How do you go wrong with Acros? The black and white Acros is nice. Otherwise, the others I don't really touch. Vivid and Astia and all that, they're not really ideal for me.
Really fancy names. But when it comes to the RX1R III, new creative styles. So you've got the film like 1, 2, and 3. You've also got a pastel-like high-key creative style there as well, which does look quite cool inside the camera. I'll actually show it to you.
Soft high key. Okay. Soft high key. Okay, so soft high key. So standard. That's pretty clean. Sepia is always interesting. Black and white. Not bad, eh? Considering it's... Okay, so the black and white, I would say, is very close to the Acros in the Fujifilm. It tends towards the yellow, but a good thing is you can always customize it. Soft high key. That's nice, eh? That is really nice. If you do a soft high key, this will do really well on a beach, soft high key, I think so. And you've got the nice big blues.
It's that kind of beach, seaside town kind of aesthetic, which is quite popular.
Film 3, FL3 is not bad actually, surprisingly good. The contrast is pretty good on all of these actually.
Yeah. I've got a little bit of a hot take.
Neutral's alright. Neutral's pretty standard.
Do you want to hear my hot take?
Go for it.
I think sepia is one of the stupidest freaking color profiles in every camera manufacturer's arsenal. Who actually uses sepia? I've never seen it on Instagram. I've never seen it anywhere. If you do, put it in down below, and I'd really like to see some of examples of your work. I just don't see a reason why I would ever use sepia.
Okay, well, as a portrait photographer, I've got it sitting at the moment on the portrait color profile. Your skin tonality is impressive, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, the portrait, that's general colour style that's in most of the Sony ones.
Yeah, but they've also taken away the pink that used to be a problem with Sony, and I think they've done a good job with this.
Yeah.
Not bad, eh? It kind of reminds me of the GFX2 that I have.
Yeah.
My Fujifilm tends a little bit towards the green when it comes to portraits, this particular one.
Yeah.
The GFX100 II being the master, that's not a problem with color. This one actually has slightly warmer, toned down colors. I like them. Portraits are very nice on this. You'd be very much happy using a portrait style color profile on this if you're interested in using this camera like on a street photography scenario with people.
I would probably say,
I like it.
Again, maybe another hot take, but I think the RX1R III is probably the best out of the range, other than maybe the 43 Leica Q3 at portraits.
Okay, the Leica Q3, in my opinion, still beats this one in portraits. There's no doubt about it. And I think it's the color science. You know, it kind of reminds me of the difference between the GFX100 II and the Hasselblad X2D, right? So you're looking at a difference in color science. This actually surprises me today. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm not even a Sony shooter. And being a portrait shooter, I'm impressed, actually. Yeah, I would never use sepia. Who the heck uses sepia? Black and white, okay.
That was one of those ADHD moments where the question finally hit.
Yeah, I mean, the black and white I'm happy with, absolutely. Listen, everyone who's watching this, seriously, as a portrait shooter who does signature portraits, I concentrate on high-end portrait photography. This would be very nice for environmental portraits. Considering you've got a 35mm, and you can do some really nice portrait. I'm just taking a shot here with Stuart, and he's got, his skin tonality is pretty impressive in portrait. The bokeh is not bad on this lens. Actually, surprisingly
really
good.
quite nice.
Something I don't know, I'm not too sure if you're doing it with a Sony, right? But I find myself, even I shoot RAW, which obviously I prefer shooting RAW, right? I find myself shooting it across. I like looking at it through the EVF in black and white, even though I shoot RAW and I got all the color when I go back. Do you find shooting, you can shoot RAW there, do you find shooting in black and white through the viewfinder gives you better shots or not? Even though you shoot RAW anyway.
From my experience on shooting RAW via it, if I'm honest, I tend to accidentally start shooting in S-Log because most of my photography cameras are shot in S-Log. And then I try and save it with the frickin' being able to push up the highlight, you know, the exposure. But
those are the differences between a photographer and a videographer, people.
yeah, right there.
Absolutely.
We make mistakes and try and fix it afterwards. as good old Peter said.
I'd say I've enjoyed the Sony better than the Leica Q3.
Have you?
Not necessarily from the quality, you know, because I can't really compare the quality yet. I haven't seen the shots, but I can assume they're both the same. They're 61 megapixels. But I think the fun factor is better on the Sony. I honestly believe it's easier to hold a camera. It's smaller. You can put it in your pocket.
Yeah, and that's something that was quite surprising with it.
And the video is better.
Yeah.
Because Leica Q3, I'm sorry, the audio in the Leica Q3 doesn't work for me. It's just not designed to
But it does
do
do
good.
8K. It does do 8K though.
Yeah, but it's kind of crippled, right? If you're going to have an 8K video without good audio, what's the point?
Well, that's it. The other thing that we haven't mentioned here is, I don't know with the GFX, I believe it does, but it actually has a mic input as well.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So
These two are both equally good, I think, in video. Not like heavy pro video, but I'd say prosumer, pro consumer, absolutely. And great as second camera, B-roll camera is fantastic for that. Whereas Leica, I think, as great as the lens is, because they've got an incredible lens, even though they've got an 8K shoot capability, they lose it on the audio, and you've got to rely on very specific microphones to do that. It's USB-C microphones are not ideal for this. So,
yeah, for sure.
but as quality-wise, I think it'll be probably on par with the Leica Q3.
Where would you rate them? Like 1, 2, and 3 for you as somebody that uses premium compact cameras?
From the quality of the photo, look, mathematically you can't deny 100 megapixels, so I think the quality will be on this here. In terms of the 100RF, I think the quality of the photo stands out in the GFX. If I start cropping down, which I would, because I will crop down on the 100 megapixels, then I'd say they're about the same.
Yeah.
Because you're going to crop this down to a level where you'll probably reach 60 megapixels, maybe 50, maybe 40. Then it's okay. Then I would say they're both comparable. From the autofocus, the Sony wins, hands down. Hands down. From a battery perspective, that Leica Q3 has got an incredible battery.
Yeah.
That thing is unbelievable.
It's absolutely massive. And one of the things that I'd say I don't necessarily like about the Sony is that FW50 battery.
Yeah.
Mainly because I have had bad experience with the FW50s with the original kind of like A7 lineup.
It's better than the previous version though.
But I would say, and this is something which, although I dislike the battery, I would say it's a vast amount of improvement from the previous ones, is the fact that it no longer uses a BX1 battery, which is the battery in the previous RX
Yeah, they were
series.
terrible.
They were terrible, very quick to run out. This is of course a lot bigger than those, not a lot bigger, it's a little bit bigger than the previous RX1 series because you haven't really got that larger battery, a few extra components which probably take up a little bit more space.
The fact that
it's interesting.
The fact that both these cameras, the Fuji GFX100RF and the Sony, I can never get the name right, RX1R3. The fact that they don't have an IBIS, you know, in body stabilization, is not a crippling stage. It's not a problem, even though Leica has it. I honestly don't feel it, and I think it's the size of the lens. I think it's the fact that that Sony's got a 35mm, and this has got a 35 equivalent 28.
I think the argument most people have towards that end is you're spending basically £4,000, over £4,000 on a camera, you'd expect to at least have IBIS, maybe
I would have liked
proper
it.
weathery ceiling.
I would have liked it.
But, you know, overall, I think, for me, I think the GFX was my favorite. I like the large format, I like the video capabilities of it. The RX1R III, very close second, if not on top, depending on the situation, right? So for actual travel, then,
Sony wins.
you know, the Sony wins every time.
From a perspective of a portrait photographer, I like all three cameras. Don't get me wrong, I think they're all great. What I find though, if you know how to shoot medium format, if you know how to shoot GFX, you'll enjoy this. But if you're not worried about, you know, learning advanced stuff, advanced techniques, the Sony is very forgiving. I mean, you can take the camera, pick it up and start shooting. You've got no problems. You know you're going to get your shots.
Well, it's reliability. It's
Absolutely. Sony is very good and actually surprisingly well designed. I was quite surprised by, and when I say I like the camera, for me, GFX wins just because I use it. Sony would be second, like Q3 third, and I'll tell you why. The grip, yeah, and I'll tell you why.
Everybody.
It's a hot take, and I'll tell you why. The Sony, even though it's got a small little grip on it, I felt comfortable using it. The Leica Q3, I had to get the grip underneath, and I had to get the thumb.
And you've indeed done it with your GFX.
And in this case, I've also had to put an extra grip on this camera to handle the handling. So actually, even though the Sony is a smaller camera, I find it easier in the hand. I can't believe I'm saying that actually.
And that's one of the most important things, is how nice it is to actually shoot with. And
yeah.
At the end of the day, that's it. If you have any thoughts on this, then make sure you put them in down below. Look to see you next time, and you know, give Dimitri a follow. He'll be in the description and stuff. And make sure you follow us, like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff.
You can find me on alphastudio.uk. I'm available online, websites, Instagram, you name it. Awesome. And of course, the reason I'm doing this video today is because Camera Center UK is my preferred retailer.
Yeah. And
I've worked with all the other retailers in the UK. But now I live in Wales, and yeah, the guys know what they're doing. Eh? They know their stuff. So, especially technical information. So, last thoughts on this camera. I'm surprised. Yeah. I don't often shoot Sony, but if you've got the money and you're already a Sony shooter, it's a no-brainer camera. You can take it and travel everywhere with it. Be cautious with the weather.
Yeah.
But like any camera, you should be.
Sometimes you just got to risk it for a biscuit.
And in my case, look, I own the GFX100 II. I've got the top-of-the-line GFX, but I bought this because I like traveling with a camera that doesn't compromise quality. Same goes for this Sony. Yeah. You might own a high-quality Sony, A7R5 or something like that, but this doesn't compromise in quality at all.
Exactly.
Which is exactly what you want, right? Amazing. Second camera, B-roll.
B-roll,
love
perfect. See you next time.
Cheers, everyone.
Oh.